An old white helmet for an old white man. I guess that's the liberal way now.
Canadians have been waiting for this day for 10 years, and that day is officially Friday, March the 14th. Justin Trudeau will officially cease to be the Prime Minister of Canada. But, unfortunately, his replacement, Mark Carney, will be sworn in to take his place. What's the silver lining? A federal election will be called within just a few days.
Let's take a look.
Canadians will have a new Prime Minister by lunchtime tomorrow. CTV News has learned Mark Carney will be sworn in late Friday morning. And with this ongoing trade war dominating the national conversation, the Prime Minister-designate says he is ready to sit down with Donald Trump once he officially takes office.
We are ready to sit down with the Americans, with the U.S. government. I'm ready to sit down with President Trump at the appropriate time, under a position where there's respect for Canadian sovereignty, and we're working for a common approach.
So before we get any further, just a few things. So that was down at Dofasco, and
That's here in Hamilton.
That's here in Hamilton. But one of the interesting things about that press conference is there was no steel workers willing to stand behind him.
Or maybe they were told not to, which I'm honestly not sure which situation would be worse. But the point being is those were cabinet ministers behind Mark Carney.
And we do have some unconfirmed rumors that while Mark Carney was in the parking lot, he had specifically advised all the journalists that there would be no questions. Now, this is a new prime minister as of tomorrow. New leader of the Liberal Party, and his position is, in almost every media appearance that he's had, I'm not taking questions.
Yeah, you would think that if you're leader of the country, or just about to be leader of the country anyways, that you would want to speak to the Canadian people, that you would want to answer questions from the media, because the media, again, is this important conduit from which Canadians can get their information from the governing class. And the fact that Mark Carney, either it was him saying that he wasn't taking questions, or maybe it was his team saying that he wasn't taking questions, we're not 100% clear. But the point is, Carney did not answer questions at this conference. And I think it looks very poor.
Well, maybe the guidance came from now Chief of Staff Marco Mendicino in his experience answering or not answering questions in press conferences.
This is, I think, a very good and thorough summation of the actions that we've taken today.
And
I'll be happy to take more questions.
How is it?
So maybe that was just his recommendation because he was so terrible at it. He just said, Mark, don't answer questions.
Well, and Mark is terrible at it too. Like, if you watch this press conference that he gave compared to a similar one that Pierre Poilievre gave recently, I mean, it's just night and day. Like, Carney is not a good orator. And I think, at least I suspect, that one of their strategies is to keep him quiet so that he does not out himself to Canadians as this horrible orator who cannot speak for the country.
Well, and the interesting thing is, let me just show you a screenshot from this press conference. He almost can't help himself, right? Because if you notice, all of those people that are behind him, those are MPs. Right, that's Karina Gold, that's Anita Nunn. So they're all dressed up following him, and they're all in gray helmets. But he needs to be different. He needs to be the prime minister. He needs to be shown as, I'm just a little above you guys, so I need my white helmet. An old white helmet for an old white man. I guess that's the liberal way now.
Carney has been getting briefings from national security officials in the lead up to his swearing in. All this comes as Canada faces a chaotic and ever-changing trade war and economic uncertainty on both sides of the border as a result. Here to tell us more about this is CTV News political analyst Scott Reid. Good morning, Scott.
Morning, Stefan.
Clearly, Mark Carney has marching orders, or at least a clear idea of what the first order of business should be. How much will the future for him politically depend on what he does now?
Tremendously. It's going to depend entirely upon how these next few days are framed, because this coming election, and I think following the composition of his cabinet, we're going to be very quickly into election, either will be entirely focused on confronting and overcoming the threat of Donald Trump and tariffs, or it will be a referendum on the past, Trudeau, the Liberals having long been in office. And depending on which question is asked, Mark Carney will be competitive as a candidate for Prime Minister, or he will probably lose the next election.
Okay. And you've been part of a transition team before with the Liberal Party under Paul Martin, getting him transitioned and ready for office. What do you think they need to do right now?
This is going to be a completely different exercise. Stefan, this is what I really want to emphasize. This is going to be a different exercise than anyone like myself who's been involved with helping someone come to office as Prime Minister over the course of the last number of decades. For the first time since the 1940s, we are going to see a war cabinet composed. It will be smaller, it will be more compact, more focused, and more centralized around the critical question of confronting the aggression and hostility we see coming from the White House. Literally, we are in a trade war. We are in an economic war with Donald Trump. We may well be in a war over our own borders, as we've seen Donald Trump threaten the integrity of Canada's territory.
Okay, here we go. Here we go, folks. This is so the tariff war isn't enough. The trade war isn't enough. Now you have people like Scott Reid as mouthpieces for the Liberal Party putting forth even more rhetoric to try and scare the crap out of Canadians, to say, oh, Donald Trump, he's going to come and take over the country. They're going to come and land troops in our border. They're going to...
What do you suppose NATO would do, hypothetically, if the Americans started attacking Canada? I mean, what happened last time that the Americans and Canadians were at war?
No, we went down and burned the White House to the ground. Right?
Honestly, though, hypothetical situations aside, I think that this is just more bluster by Donald Trump. I think he was trolling Justin Trudeau. I think the media's gotten carried away with it. Now, as a political leader, I don't think you can just brush it off entirely. I think you have to have kind of a plan for maybe he's not bluffing, but I really don't see the Americans following through with something like that.
Here's the thing, folks. And Michelle Junot-Katsuya alluded to this. Do you really think the American military will follow an order by a president? And by the way, President Trump has to authorize this through Congress, which Congress would never, ever, ever do. So there's no chance of this happening. This is why all the people are saying, oh, he's not serious. I don't care if he's serious or not. It'll never happen. The American military is not going to disgrace themselves, because there is still a high sense of honor in the American military. They're not going to disgrace themselves by invading Canada.
I think it's actually dishonest the way the Canadian media has been spinning this. I think that they, plus the Liberal Party, are kind of using this whole idea of Alberta becoming the 51st state, or of the Americans coming and annexing a portion of Canada. I think that they are using that to try to drum up support after this disastrous government that we've had the past 10 years. They're taking this situation that is extremely unlikely and putting it at the forefront, putting it in people's minds, putting it in front of people's faces and saying, well, this could happen. This could happen. We need to be careful. We need to rally together. And quite frankly, I feel it's manufactured and dishonest.
Well, it's a joke. And this is not the first trade war that we've been in. It's not going to be the last trade war that we've been in. And there is no chance that the United States is going to invade Canada, because President Trump needs to send that to Congress. Congress needs to approve the United States going to war with somebody. Congress will never, ever approve that, because, again, are you really going to go down in history as the Congress or the military that authorized a unjustified war on Canada?
Your biggest ally?
Are you kidding me? It's not going to happen. But it's now well known in Ottawa that this is going to happen in terms of an election being called within a couple days. So most likely what's going to happen is Mark Carney, tomorrow, he gets sworn in. Sunday or Monday, he goes to the Governor General. off you go. Parliament is dissolved and an election is called, writ is dropped, and we're into the campaign, folks. And that election will happen late April, early May, like we've been reminding people for the last couple of weeks. And
it's going to be absolutely hilarious that Carney is going to be prime minister only for a couple months once the election period is over.
Right. It's actually going to be very, very interesting. Now, we've heard people say, oh, well, I have sources that Justin Trudeau is going to call the election in order, so Mark Carney doesn't give the Conservatives talking points that he's not going to be a prime minister. No.
Not based on what we're seeing. I mean, there's still time. Is it still possible? Sure. But I think it would look worse for Justin Trudeau to call the election and try to skirt around this talking point than to just have Carney take power as prime minister and call the election himself.
It would look even more bizarre considering the fact that Justin Trudeau said goodbye today.
I am so proud of Canadians. I'm proud to have served a country full of people who stand up for what's right, rise to every occasion, and always have each other's backs when it matters most. This may be my last day here in this office, but I will always be boldly and unapologetically Canadian. My only ask is that no matter what the world throws at us, you always be the same.
Always be the same.
No matter what they throw at us. I mean, this is coming from the guy who, his government has been one of the most corrupt, if not the most corrupt governments in our country's history, all 150 plus years. And not only that, but, they say that they're for freedom and all these flowery words, but really it was Justin Trudeau and the Liberals that were having protesters arrested. And those protesters were the ones standing up for our freedoms after the Liberals took them away.
Well, not only that, they froze bank accounts. They mandated speech in our language. Not that you couldn't say certain things, that you must say certain things. They started systematically removing our ability to speak our thoughts online, to censor what you can see online, and to make sure that you're watching the government-funded media when and if at all possible. So that was the road that they were going down on. And then one of the most dangerous pieces of legislation that, thank goodness, will never see the light of day, Bill C-63, was going to make it a life sentence, a potential life sentence for you to offend somebody online, to commit a hate crime, hate speech. So if Justin Trudeau is worried about his reign being forgotten, don't worry. Don't worry, Justin. Your legacy will be firmly ingrained in the minds of Canadians, just not in the way that you think.